if you could just give a brief breakdown of what like the insolvency process is.
Yeah.
Like from, you have a good looking real estate project, something probably obviously happens, and then where do you take it from there?
Under the most relevant legislation here is the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act, obviously. And under that umbrella, there are a number of different processes that can be considered when there is financial distress. I'll just boil it down in simplest terms to either creditor-driven proceedings or debtor-driven proceedings. And what that means is basically who's in control once a process is started. So, a creditor-driven proceeding that we'll be talking, I'm sure, a lot about today is going to mostly be a receivership. Debtor-driven processes would be either a proposal or a CCAA filing where the company or debtor still stays in control of the process, but they have the ability to kind of restructure their debt and with a view to having a profitable or viable business on the other end of it. And, in the context of real estate, which we're focusing on today, there's always some discussion as to what's the best process. And I think a lot of it boils down to trust between the lenders and the borrowers, right? In some cases, if you have a borrower who is putting, in good faith, his best efforts forward and has open communication with the lender in most cases, again, doesn't have any joy in enforcing and taking control of a project. They'll do their best. And we've seen a lot of this over the last few years where, they'll enter into forbearance agreements and, really bend over backwards to try and help the borrower right-size the ship. The other flip side of that coin is if you have a borrower who just refuses to return calls and provide information that's requested and just cuts off all lines of communication, the lender's probably going to just enforce directly and appoint a receiver and take it out of the hands of that borrower.
So just as, I guess, a quick summary, there's two different processes. One where the borrower remains in charge, and then there's working with a partnership between them and the lender who's enforcing the action. And one where the lender simply just takes over the project, basically.
Yeah, in simplest terms.
who determines that? The lender's the one that goes in and makes those enforcements or makes that decision, sorry?
Yeah, so a lender will work with its counsel and just obviously consider its options. There are, I'll call it more formal processes. The receivership option is the nuclear option, right? That's you go to court, you bring a motion to appoint a receiver. We are not acting on behalf of the secured creditor. We're an independent court officer. And, obviously we have a duty to report and consult with the secured lenders and other stakeholders. But ultimately, we're a court officer, and we have to report to the court on what we see in the situation and what we think is the best, path to maximize realizations and value for everybody involved, right? Lenders also have the option, in some cases, of going through a power of sale, foreclosure, or maybe some other options as well. It's really, very circumstantial. The more, I'll say, complex a site is, if you're dealing with vacant land and there's, no liens, no other mess around there, no property tax issues and tax sales, anything like that, maybe a power of sale makes sense.